All right. Hello and welcome to House of Cult. I'm Alessandro, and with me, as always, is Ariel, the owner and founder of the Pretty Cult. Today, we're beyond honored to be joined by Morgan and Mercedes Lander, sisters, founding members, and the driving force behind the legendary Canadian heavy metal band Kittie. Kittie are currently celebrating the 25th anniversary of their landmark debut album, Spit. We're going to be talking all about the impact of the record as well as their new Spit 25 EP, which drops on September 19th and features new versions of classic songs. And they also once again entered the studio with producer Garth Richardson, and we're going to touch on that as well as a bunch of other stuff. So before we get into that, though, how are you two doing today?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Not too bad. Yeah, we're hanging in. Woo.
I love your background, Morgan. Is this the tone zone right there? Is this
The
where we're
tone
doing?
zone.
Is this the tone zone?
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, it is a small room, but yeah, I've got some guitars and some amps and a little desk here. So yeah, that's it's my little musical corner, I suppose.
I love it. Well, I'm just going to jump in here with the first, question for you guys. This year, you're celebrating 25 years of obviously your landmark debut album, Spit. And next year will mark 30 years of Kitty. Does it feel
Mm.
surreal to reflect on that journey back, when you guys first started out? Did you ever imagine, the journey of how far you guys have come, just considering you were two, just some kids from the humble city of London, Ontario?
Yeah. Just a
Um,
couple kids from the suburbs.
I don't think we ever got into this and started doing this thinking that this would happen. I mean, like obviously, like when you're a child and you start, playing music, you always have hopes and dreams and aspirations, but you never honestly think that something like this would ever happen. You're like, oh, somebody else, somebody else. Because stuff like this doesn't happen to people like us from, like a smaller Canadian city. We didn't have any connection to any like certain music scene or anything like that. So like we really it was totally insane that this happened. It was totally crazy that we were afforded this chance to be able to, do this for a living for so many years.
Yeah.
Um, it's it's insane. Like I never in my wildest dreams ever would have ever imagined me doing this at the age of 12.
Yeah,
Crazy.
and 30 years on, I'm still like, wow, I can't believe we're still doing it. Like it still feels like this I don't know, strange dream. Like I often look back and say, yeah, like what a weird life. Um, but yeah, it is really hard to sort of to to put into words like how it feels to have something that was just sort of like a small, fun little. I mean, a lot of people have fun little projects that they do with their friends, and you never think that it would become the defining thing in your life. And so it's weird. It's big and it's weird.
I think what's so awesome about that though is like, bands that are nearly 30 years into their career, not oftentimes are they experiencing this massive, I guess uptick in popularity, this resurgence and everything, especially that y'all have been experiencing. Like, because in 2025, Kitty is arguably the biggest they've ever been, from the total music consumption across streaming platforms, sold out shows, and just the overall cultural relevance, kind of considering the ups and downs you've weathered, like major label pressures, shifts in like the social media landscape and streaming. And, obviously you talk a lot about it in your documentary, which I just rewatched, going through the major label system, all kinds of the different pitfalls with that, where do you think that kind of fearless, uncompromising spirit sort of comes from? And, why it's still as strong as ever to get you to this point?
Uh, I think pure stubbornness. I mean, how else do you just like I think Morgan and I just really just like don't know how to give up, maybe. I don't know. I mean, maybe we did for a while, but I feel like uh it's just so ingrained in our personalities, and it's a really is a part of who we are. So I think staying away forever was never really an option for us. And that goes for Tara and Ivy as well, you know, like
Yeah.
they've stuck it out for the long haul. And yeah, it's crazy how things have evolved. And I really do feel um I'm going to use this word and I hate it so much. I feel blessed to how else do you describe that though? Like, but like it's like how do you not feel that way though, right? Like so
Yeah.
many things have happened, especially in the last 2 years. When we started to write Fire, and like so many things happened to us in the last 2 years that really set the stage for what's happening now. And like once in a lifetime opportunities, like working with Nick Raskulinecz.
Yeah.
We were planning on just playing a couple shows and then like, you know, taking a hike for a while again. But like just things just snowballed and got out of control, and as things do apparently with us. Um, and it's just like so many once in a lifetime opportunities that we just couldn't say no. You know what I mean? So I feel like this has just been such an amazing journey, and really thinking about it. And thank you for saying that we're bigger than we've ever been, because that is correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean it really does feel that way, and I agree with Mercedes, especially the last couple of years, the journey that we've been on sort of with our second life that Kittie
Hmm.
has taken on. It's like we've had experiences and opportunities in the last few years that we've never ever received ever. And I mean, I think we are definitely stubborn, and we're bad bitches, We just still I don't know. Like, I feel like it's like, oh, do we still have something to prove? Like, I feel like there still is something to say. And so while we have the opportunity, why not continue to say it and continue to, um, you know, make music that resonates with people. And yeah, like we just sort of dipped our toe in, and all of a sudden we were drowning. So it really does feel good to have been sort of through the ringer of when you watch the documentary, like, and that's just like the very succinct version of all of the
Yeah.
ups and downs. But it really feels the up is really nice, and it feels better than it ever has. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure we'll get to this later, but I was just thinking while you guys were talking too, like, all the new like young fans you have is so cool. Like I tell Rachel all the time when I'm like out at like oddities specifically vending, I will see Kittie shirts and they're always on people like under the age of 18. It's really cool, and I'll like talk to them, like kind of ask them about it or whatever, like, oh, you like
Hmm.
Kitty? Like me too. And they're like, yeah, like, and they'll say, like, I just found them, like they're really cool. And I'm like, yeah, like it's cool because like obviously I know you guys, and I'm like, oh, Kitty, like, yeah, love them too. And but I tell her all the time, I'll be like, saw more like Kitty shirts this weekend and like wherever I am, like Indianapolis. Um, and it's always on younger people, which I'm sure is also like really exciting for you guys because it's just like younger, all genders around, but specifically, I'm seeing a lot of females, finding Kitty and like really loving you guys, which is so cool.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's really wild. Like it just feels like it's been this weird generational thing where the children of the people that started out with us 25 years ago are now getting to a point where they're discovering music for themselves and they're just discovering the same music. It's really, really neat. And I think a lot of that has helped to drive some of what we're experiencing now with this resurgence, this second life that Kittie has been able to have. And when we play shows, when we do our headlining shows, you look out into the crowd and you are seeing, you know, 16, 17, 18-year-old young women, and then that's juxtaposed with people that are in their 40s and 50s. You know what I mean? It's like we entertain and people gravitate towards us from all walks of life, and it's beautiful. It feels like it's a nice little safe space.
Taking it back to the early days of Spit when you guys were a lot younger, as we're talking about with the younger generation, what are some of those vivid memories of like writing those songs, probably jamming in your parents' house, scribbling down lyrics in your room? Do you have any of those memories, that you could share, walk us through?
Oh yeah, of course. I see Mercedes' impish grin there. You know what? Like for a really long time, like we 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 didn't take being in the band very seriously until we had to. Like for us, like I recall a lot of what our practicing was just us pissing around. We wrote these songs, but we really made sure that it wasn't like a chore. It was always fun. And if we just didn't want to, practice or play that day, we would just go and, make food and do other things. It just was like, when you're a teenager, it's, your mind jumps from place to place. But yeah, like so many memories. We really did have a lot of grand schemes and grand dreams like that we still cannot believe that any of it has come true. One fun anecdote from the studio that I when we were recording Spit with Garth that I have thought about and talked about recently was that Brackish, obviously that was the breakout track. It continues to be one of the defining songs of our career. It didn't have any lyrics when we finished
Oh.
recording the album. And it was because, so, I mean, obviously you can hear the difference in my voice from 25 years ago to now. There's a lot of experience and technique and things that allow me to scream the way that I do and not hurt my voice. But back then, I was not very seasoned, I would say. And I lost my voice towards the end of the recording session. And so the song was recorded, but there were no lyrics. And I had to go back in after my voice had healed, like a couple weeks later. And I'm pretty sure Garth wasn't there. We just like recorded these lyrics and vocals that I literally was like sitting in the booth writing on the floor as I'm singing them. Like I had
Wow.
no idea what I was doing. The original version of Brackish that we had actually had completely different lyrics, completely different melody. And on the spot, I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna wing this and change it, and the rest is history. And so it was
And
just like we were so very unserious about everything. I was just kind of like, I guess I'll do this, and yeah, it changed our lives forever.
Wow. That is
Yeah,
so wild to think about that
yeah,
it just all came
hmm
together at the 11th hour. That's so cool.
yeah. It
it's
it
also
really
interesting
did.
too because Morgan was the only person that went to the studio that day to record all those vocals, right? So I wasn't even there when I was in school at the time. So it was just Morgan. She went back and to record the parts for that song. And so like I didn't even until we started mixing, I didn't even know what she was doing on that song, right?
Mhm.
So very interesting. And yes, she
Yeah,
screams the part in the chorus. That's Morgan.
yeah.
So
It's
cool.
me.
I kind of something I want to touch on is, despite the fact that, Kittie was obviously, early on in your career, sort of lumped into that new metal movement, maybe fairly and sometimes unfairly, I would say, for the most part, but I'm kind of curious, like, you guys have always been kind of looked at as a blueprint of that early sound, but when you were making this record, you didn't have a blueprint, I can imagine, necessarily of like what to do. You were writing exactly what felt natural and just a culmination of your influences. And I've always been curious what some of those early influences were kind of leading into this record. Like when I'm listening to it, I could be totally wrong, but I'm hearing like a little bit of like Sepultura, like Roots, Bloody Roots era. I could be
Hmm.
totally wrong,
Hmm. Yeah.
but I'm hearing some of that with the guitar riffs, but I'm just very curious what was sort of your template kind of going into this record.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
The way that I see Spit is I see it in two pieces. So I see like our very early songs, songs like Get Off, songs like Suck, songs like And Trippin'. Those are like the super early songs that were written earlier. And then there's songs like Spit and Do You Think and songs like that that are from a little bit later. And like for instance, Do You Think I think was the last song that we wrote right before we Spit and Do You Think those were the last two that we wrote right before we recorded. So you can kind of even see the differences in those songs, like in the ability and the songwriting and how they're leaps and bounds ahead of where we kind of started. But yeah, like I feel like for us, like definitely the first two Deftones records were a big influence. Um, what else, Morgan? I don't know, for a guitar
Sepultura
player.
Roots definitely. I bought Roots at a pawn shop.
Hell yeah.
I remember down walking down there and just like trying to find new cool stuff. We I'm trying to think like what like the first Corn album was a big one. But like if you remember, if you're old like me, you'll remember that the mid '90s, when we were formed as a band and when we were writing these songs, like new metal wasn't like I don't think it was like defined yet. Like I
No,
think
definitely.
bands like and like the Deftones aren't really even new metal, but they definitely those early albums were lumped in there. But like bands like the Deftones and Korn were like really kind of it. There it wasn't like this this like formed idea. There was a lot of there's just a lot of like you could see that a lot of those bands had the similar influences, but they were all kind of doing their own thing. And so those were the bands that we were into. And even like Roots, it's like I mean, Sepultura was like a thrash band, and then all of a sudden they discovered Corn as well, and we're like, let's
Yeah.
kind of mix it all together. So like, yeah, there were a lot of those influences that really sort of played into our um, like our music and our thoughts and like sort of seeped in as well. And there were even a few um female fronted bands that like I think kind of have faded a bit from memory, like Human Waste Project. That one, that album that they put out, that first album was really cool. And also Tourist Satana was another band
Mm.
that I listened to as well. But they, all it was all coming from California, and we just were like, you know, buying like the little like mix CDs that you could get from magazines to like
Hmm.
discover new music because like I don't know even I don't even think downloading music was something that you could do at the time. If you did, it would take a long time.
Yeah.
Another album that I definitely want to give props to is an audio guide for Everyday Atrocity, Nothing Face. That was for
Oh
me
my
Yeah.
God.
personally.
Mm. Mm.
That was like the life-changing record for me for sure. Like I really after that record wasn't really into Nothing Face, but like that record, and I guess Pacifier too,
Yeah, Pacifier was a great one as well.
very
Yeah.
Pacifier was very new metal, but an Audio Guide to Everyday Atrocity, that was like the bridge for me. And I think that came
Hmm.
out in 98. I really think that that record kind of, for me personally, like influenced me a lot in my playing. And I think it still does to this day. Like every once in a while, I'll just throw it on and be like, oh yeah, this record smashes.
It's near perfect.
Yeah.
It's near perfect.
My eyes lit up when you said nothing face. I back when I used to work for Alternative Press, I did like the 12 like underrated new metal band like listicle thing, and I ranked Nothing Face. I believe like either like two or three on that list. Like
Hmm.
such an incredible band, so underrated. We'll always defend that
Oh yeah,
band
for
till the
sure,
end.
for
Yeah,
sure.
So
for sure.
cool. Yeah, one of the things that obviously makes Spit so impactful too is, you were the same age, as a lot of your listeners that were consuming the music, not something that's typically super common. It sort of felt like you were, the voice of, your generation's, diary entries, in an entire generation. Did you kind of
Hmm.
feel conscious of that while writing this music? And, once it was released, did it feel validating in a sense, to be able to kind of relate to your fan base in that way, but did it also sometimes almost hit too close to home and almost feel overwhelming that like you're experiencing a lot of these same things as your audience, and did it feel a little bit close in that sense?
Yeah, well, I think it certainly was overwhelming. Maybe not for that particular reason that, we were having shared experiences as being teenagers, but just like and I don't know, maybe that's true, but it was overwhelming in that, like, we were putting ourselves out there, and it is a very vulnerable thing to share those kinds of feelings. And I don't know, we can all remember when we were like angry teenagers, like how we felt, how isolating sometimes it could be, how angry for no reason or for many good reasons, we were. And for me, I certainly was. And it was a really brave and vulnerable thing for me to be able to share that, with with everyone. I think at the time, I certainly didn't. It didn't really dawn on me that, like, oh wow, people are resonating with the things that I'm saying, because like this is my peer group. We're going through these things in this moment together. But certainly as I got older and have been able to like look back, like I mean, it makes perfect sense. It's like when you say the voice of a generation, it's like there were the disenfranchised youth gravitating towards Kittie's music because, like, those were people that in any other universe would be our best friends and our peers and our schoolmates and people in other bands that, we went to high school with. And so I totally get it. But I think, um, things for us were, it was wild, it was hectic, it was like being in the eye of a storm, and really um not fully grasping like the gravity of everything, and like the weight of and how impactful and important the things that we were doing were. We were just like crazy kids that were like, you know what, let's start a band and see what happens. And never really setting out to like be something, or to like make a specific point, but in sort of just like feeling in the dark, we definitely did.
Absolutely. Yeah, and another thing I want to touch on too is obviously the fact that you worked with Garth Richardson. I think one of the best producers out there. He's produced some of my favorite records, specifically one of my favorite records of all time, and especially Spit as well. You know, do you have any cool Garth stories from those early days? Obviously, you mentioned a little bit of the brackish story, but
Mhm.
I can imagine, Garth is definitely seems to be a very, charismatic character. So I'm just curious if you have any fond memories of that process.
Charismatic is a great way to describe him. I don't know. Do you have any good stories, Morgan?
I don't know. Garth's a funny guy. I really enjoyed revisiting our time with him when we recorded Spit 25. Just because I think we were a lot older. Like it's to put in all of it into context, and it really hit home for me that when we were discussing uh, while we were re-recording these songs, that like Garth was the same age that I was when we recorded Spit originally, and it's so mind blowing to like think about like how young we were.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know, he really loved to mess with um the people that worked at the studio, like the underlings and stuff. He really loves hockey. I don't know. He's just like
I feel like he
he's
had
a
to be
funny guy.
so patient to be able to
Mm.
work with us too. Like I just remember him like just being like, okay, let's do it again. And mind you, we only had 9 days to record that album. Uh, Everything was recorded within that 9 day period. So, with the exception of obviously Morgan having to go in a couple weeks later and record Brackish, but like we really did not have a lot of time to
Yeah.
do, and we were still going to school at the same time too. So we'd get off school, we'd go straight to the studio, and then record all night, and then go back to school in the morning.
I'm guessing too, like was the record like recorded to a click or anything like that, or was
No,
it just
God,
pretty
no.
just
No.
full, yeah, just okay, that's what
No,
I
I
can
had never
imagine.
done that before. And like to be honest, most Kittie records aren't recorded to a click.
Yeah.
I think Fire is that's the first one.
Yeah. Oh, because obviously you can feel the push and pull,
Yeah.
things are
Yeah,
slowing
for
down,
sure.
but I mean that's so wild and I'm imagining too like that was probably pretty like early Pro Tools era, I feel like
Hmm.
probably in that time too. I mean,
For
that
sure.
Yeah.
must have been such like kind of a mind fuck at the time, being these kids
Yeah.
being like, we're making this big
Yeah.
record. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember one time we walked into the control room and there was pornography on the TV in the control room. Sorry, Garth. And I was just like, this is weird. And I just, you know, had turned around and because like he had small children at the time, so he probably, I feel like he probably kept things, pretty low key, wasn't his true authentic self until we recorded Oracle together. And then later on when we recorded Spit XXV together, I feel like he definitely probably kept a lid on it. But one time I was just like walked into the control room and I remember being like, why is this happening? I'm leaving. But that's really about it, honestly. He had like two engineers working, like basically nonstop because we literally had zero time to be able to record that record. So,
Hmm.
uh, and then I think Rob also engineered as well, did he not?
Yep, yeah. Rob Nation, who owned the studio at the time, who was the person that got us sort of introduced to Garth and made the whole connection and made everything happen for us little London, Ontario girls. But yeah, it was again, it was like we're making an album and we were really having a fun time and really silly and not again really seeing the whole gravity of the situation, like who we were working with and like we knew, but it just didn't dawn on us, and he's trucked all these amazing vintage amps to the studio because like we were, using like Fender Squires and like PV. I think I had a Fender, like a little Fender. Like we just had terrible equipment back then, and
A
so
crate amp.
it
Yeah.
yeah, like it was just wild stuff, right? Like we were doing like little gig things, and this was big, but again, it just didn't make the dent in our psyche as of yet. How big it was.
And you did the re-record at Garth's new studio, right? Like in the
Yes,
Vancouver area?
Yeah,
yeah,
cool
yeah.
story. We used all of the same amps for
Wow.
Oh, that's
for
Mm.
sick.
for yeah. The amp that Morgan blew up.
I did. Oh, that is a fun story. I blew up one of his, what was it, one of the vintage, was
It
it one
was
of
the
the
vintage.
orange?
It was the vintage orange, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. So I blew that up. That was during the first recording of Spit. So I mean obviously it was fixed, but that was a fun little anecdote from then. But yeah, we got to use a lot of the same stuff to record, and it was really cool
Wow.
to again sort of all this time later come back and just do it all over again.
That's
That's so
that's
cool.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool little
that's
lore
mind
right
blowing.
there.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
Not the same drum kit though. So
Yeah, I can imagine.
Obviously, too, when you guys were re-recording these classic songs, I'm sure, did you guys find yourself kind of transported back to, your teenage years, or do they carry, more of a different meaning now for you guys with all of your life experience?
Mercedes.
I don't really know. I feel like, obviously like sonically, these songs have kind of morphed into something very different, and we wanted to capture sonically how those songs have become, how they've taken on a little bit of a different life. We'll say that. So it was really for us, it was really important to be able to capture some of the, like obviously some of the original feeling, but these songs have really morphed and changed into very different creatures than their humble beginnings. So again, like I mean I can't speak lyrically, but I think sonically, we really wanted to showcase, how these songs, from playing them live for so many years, how these songs have really become different and, in my personal opinion, superior.
hmm For sure, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like there definitely were moments where I was like, I can't believe that I'm still doing these songs. Like we're still playing these songs after all of this time. Um, but yeah, like I think the songs have been in our repertoire for so long, and they have evolved over the years with Kittie's sound in general, that it was just for us important to um, just capture the way that they've evolved over that time. And it's like you can hear them; they're still the same songs, but it's like the band has evolved as well, and that certainly is a reflection um, of that as well. Um, yeah, it truly is wild to continue to play these songs after all these years. I think for me emotionally, the the cover that Poppy did of Spit like a few
Mm,
years back, I think it impacted me uh more. You know what I mean? I don't know.
wow.
There's just something about the repetition of playing your own song over and over again. You almost kind of get desensitized
Hmm.
to it. But that someone else wants to cover your song, to me, that's like that's a moment, you know. And we've had some really cool really cool covers happening the last few years, but like the Poppy one definitely really hit me in a way that I was like, wow, like I cannot believe it. It made me like emotional. So yeah, it's wild stuff.
No, it's so badass. And speaking of the song Spit, I just want to take a little detour. That's kind of my next question. Probably my favorite live performance of all time that I probably go back to multiple times a year is you guys performing Spit at Ozzfest 2000.
hmm
I think it's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like when Rachel first told me that she was working with y'all, I was like, just put the video up on the TV, and I was like, this is the coolest thing. And
Cool.
it's such a raw performance. You're absolutely smoking the rest of the lineup, who are some of them twice your age,
Hmm.
these big scary metal guys, and you guys are up there absolutely destroying it. What are sort of your memories of that, I guess, tour, but also that performance, like from where that was actually filmed? Because it just seemed like you were absolutely just shutting down any of those. I'm sure there were probably a lot of like gatekeepers of the scene at the time.
Hmm.
Maybe some people being a little bit negative in that more like male dominated space. What was sort of going through your heads at that performance, or what are your memories of that?
I have so many things to say. Um, I think on that, I mean, not necessarily. I believe that it was the last show of
San
Ozzfest. Was it?
Bernardino? San
Yeah,
Bernardino?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's San
Hmm.
Bernardino.
yeah,
Cool.
I believe
Okay.
so. So, yeah, like we had been on that tour, like the whole, like obviously, I think it was like what, like 2 months?
2 months, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
we were on, and like it was rich guy touring. So like not necessarily like us, we weren't rich guy touring, but it was like one day on, one day off kind of thing. Like
Hmm.
it was very lax. I was bored. Um, on the days off anyway. But yeah, like we had been on that tour, and I feel like from the time we started that tour until we ended that tour, it was we were leaps and bounds ahead of where we had started. Because practice makes perfect. Um, and I think Morgan had gotten to a place where like her voice was just like doing great. She wasn't losing her voice anymore. And I think, like that raw power, definitely showed its teeth. I do think that on that particular tour, and I wouldn't even say like male aggression. Oof, I think some of the most aggressive things that we experienced on that tour came from a woman.
Oh.
But regardless, um, I think most of the bands that we toured with on that tour were very nice, with the exception of a couple. They were all very nice to us. Our parents were out with us, so I think they maybe had to be a little nice. Um, but they were all most of the bands were super sweet, and really great, for the most part. Um, I don't really, other than us not being allowed on stage to watch a particular band because their manager didn't think they didn't want women on the stage.
Oh my God.
Um, that was so great.
There's
Very,
literally been some really, really weird stuff
yeah.
like that that's like been all throughout her career, you know. It's bizarre.
Yeah, and like
But yeah.
we just wanted to see the band play, and they were
Mhm.
like, "You're not allowed to come up here and watch them because it doesn't look good that you're side stage watching our
Wow.
this band." So anyway,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
weird.
yeah. But yeah, like I mean I have revisited that Ozfest clip a number of times, and I think that um like all of the shows were that wild. You know, we strut up there with something to prove, and we just like took that. I think our set was like 25 minutes, if you can believe it. Like 25, 30 minutes. And we just took that 30 minutes and we turned the whole festival on its head. And people people loved it. And yeah, I think you can really see that we're just up there to like, you know, to make it happen. And yeah, just like prove that we're here and we you know we're worthy of being here amongst the pantheon of all the bands that were there as well. You know, as young
I
as we were
definitely,
and as inexperienced as we
I definitely feel like we did. I mean, I know you feel this way, and I know I felt this way too. Like we definitely felt like we had something to prove.
were. Yeah.
And we walked every time. It's still like that. Come on. Like
Yeah.
every time you walk out on stage, you're like, on your knees. But like, I always feel like I have something to prove. I don't know, maybe that's just like maybe we're like this is like a trauma response from us. Just I don't know. Who knows? But I do feel like that every time I walk on stage. So like I don't think the feeling is any different really.
Mhm.
I mean, like now I can't like headbang like I used to because my back hurts. But in
We're
my
just a
head,
little more old and tired. Yeah.
I yeah, that's so I thank you so much for just even sharing any of those memories of that. I think that performance should be like studied, like in like historical archives. If there's ever like the HBO like biopic made about Kittie, like that has to be in the movie. Like it is just the most epic thing I've ever seen. It's so sick.
Thank you. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. We tried to bring it like that at every show, and there
Yeah.
were like two months of them. But like Mercedes said, by the end of it, you could tell that we were well practiced, we were seasoned, we were coming into our own as a band who, I mean, we really only started like seriously touring that year in January of that year, and that was probably
Wow.
the end of August.
Wow.
So, in less than a year, we had really, taken hold of who we are and just, throwing it in people's faces.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking a little bit off of some of what Mercedes was saying, 20 years later, with women, arguably leading the genre, does it feel validating to know that you guys obviously helped pave that path? What has improved, but also, what still needs work within this scene?
Um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, I've seen, a lot of people, some people say, with comments like Kittie walked so, et cetera, could run.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's, I think it's beautiful. I don't, I don't know that when we started the band and when we went out there and did what we did, that we would have any idea of, you know, who the people in the audience might be and what that might have done for somebody in the future. These, uh, and it was never, something that we set out to do. To say, oh, we're going to start an all-female metal band and make a statement about this, because, there isn't. But we were brave enough to take that stance. And even just our, you know, presence was like, in defiance of so many things that were working against us, in the industry at the time, and women in general, at the time. I think I would never be so presumptuous to say that, like, yes, like we did it, but I do believe that things seem like they are a little easier now. And if we had some sort of influence on how women are perceived in metal and to make it easier for women to be accepted as front people, as musicians, as an entire band, then I'm grateful that we had some of the bad experiences that we did to help um, perpetuate, better experiences for other people in the present and in the future. I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing for people to say because I can't lie. There is a part of me that's like, finally, here we are, and finally people get it. It's taken 25 years for us to get our flowers. It's taken 25 years for the world to catch up with what we were doing. And it certainly wasn't easy. With our first album, we have, like a press book because they used to actually like photocopy every single piece of press and put it into a book, and it's like this thick, and I like half of the stuff that's in there is awful, and as young people we had to read that. People, they
Yeah.
couldn't grasp, they couldn't understand, they couldn't believe that 14, 15, 16-year-old girls could be so defiant, could be so brave, could just be like, you know what? Fuck it. And um yeah, like the industry, it was tough. I still think that they're, in coming back into things now, as my old adult self, um, I know that if you speak to any woman in a band, she's still gonna have the same stories. Um, we all do. Um, Creepy people still exist. Weird people still exist. And those kinds of experiences do still exist. But I think that in general, like the people, women in metal being more accepted, and it being sort of like because there's more of them, right? And representation matters, and it helps to perpetuate more representation. So it's a good thing.
Very well said.
Thank you.
On a lighter note, a little bit, we always love to throw in a fashion question. I would love to
Ooh.
know what is one trend from the Spit era that you'd love to see come back in 2025, and what is something you feel should stay buried forever?
I
Ooh.
think it's probably already come back. I mean, I feel like, but I love like the spiked collar
Mm.
chokers in general. Like
Hmm.
that's clearly a thing again. But yeah, let's more of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'm not so fond of the Jinko thing, the big pants. I know they're back. Or like
Yeah.
Trip NYC, Jinko, mod robes, I don't know, all kinds of different stuff. But that's one thing. I mean, maybe I'm too old for them anyways, so like the kids can roll their eyes because now I'm an old lady, but like that's one thing I don't know that I could ever pull off again myself personally. I love that people are embracing it. But I think for me, for Kittie, like we had back early on, like there were a few of us that had our vinyl moments, and I am embracing, the vinyl moments again. Uh, in my 40s. I love it. So I think that's one thing that's kind of like, the like lip service, like
Mm.
90s kind of vibe that was going on. I still like lurk their website. I still love seeing, some of the stuff that they've brought back after being away for a long time or whatever. So yeah, that's the vibe that I'm loving still.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, love it.
Nobody wants giant plastic wallet chains anymore.
No, no. Uh-uh. Mm-mm.
You know, basically just about two questions left, and I know
Yeah, of course.
obviously you're both huge horror fans, and I'm
Hmm.
very curious. We always like to discuss horror on this podcast, What
Yeah.
are some of your favorite all-time, horror classics, and also we always like to ask if Kitty could ever score a horror movie themselves, which one would it be and why?
Oh. Oh.
I'm
Wow.
always
Well, you go
go ahead.
ahead. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm always a big fan of like the like Return of the Living Dead movies.
Mhm.
Those are my jam. And I feel like if they ever did like a to spec remake of the first one, I feel like I would love to score it again with the theme song that I'm
Be
talking about.
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to find like a some sort of synthesizer that would make those noises. But I think that would be really cool to do.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I definitely I have a lot of horror movies. I have I have a VHS collection. I think probably have like 1,000 tapes, like all hiding around the house and stuff. And I did have a horror podcast for a very long time with some of my friends. So I've seen and watched some of the best of the worst. Trying to think, like some of my favorite Return of the Living Dead, I think for me as well is one of my favorites just because it's nostalgic and I still can't believe that like my parents let Mercedes and I watch a lot of the stuff like when we were kids as well. We would like go to the video rental store and rent the worst garbage that we could, like the Corpse Grinder. Oh God, we watched all kinds of stuff.
Mom and dad were like completely inappropriate with the movies that we were allowed to watch, I feel like
Yeah,
though. Like,
My
they're
yeah.
parents
like,
were
yeah,
the same way.
Mhm.
Nothing, they were like, rent whatever you want. I was a kid.
Yeah, totally. And like we turned out all right, right? Come on.
yeah.
Um,
I feel like not even movies though. Like Morgan and I had a book that had like pictures of frozen corpses from the Franklin expedition that like scarred us for life. So
that was like a Scholastic book fair book. That was like
I
you could go and like, go to the book fair and like learn about the Franklin expedition and it's got like pictures of the frozen mummies and that stuff was wild. Um for movies, like things that are coming to mind right now, like I love um there are so many movies that involve like bands and hard rock music because the 80s was such a vibe. And the fact that there are so many horror movies that like incorporate that, like you got like Hard Rock Zombies, like that's a
Mm.
fun one. Rocktober Blood, that's also awesome. Black Roses, filmed in Dundas, Ontario. Woo
Ooh.
woo. Another amazing like metal music horror movie. So yeah, I'm throwing out love for those right now.
Absolutely. So I'm definitely getting an 80s theme for sure. Would you say
Yeah.
that was kind of the golden era for you?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Also,
Early
Hard Rock
90s too. There's some
Zombies,
yeah.
great
That's a fun
soundtrack.
yeah.
We could rescore that too.
Yeah.
Cassie.
Oh, Cassie, won't you tell me what to do?
That movie
uh
is literally does not make any fucking sense either. So
No, I know, but that was the beauty of it, anybody with like, anybody that remortgaged their house like could like take a few bucks and go make a movie and like people still, shot on video and people still own copies of it. There are people that are like, this is hard to find. These are worth something. And I love it.
Amazing.
what was the movie,
So,
Morgan, with the band The Clowns?
Oh, Terror on Tour.
We were on tour. That's one
Yes,
of the
oh,
that's another fun like horror slash band. They were supposed to sort of be like Kiss, I guess. Like they each had like a different like makeup kind of
but
thing
they were
going
like
on in their faces.
weird mimey clowns with afro wigs.
I'm gonna watch
Yeah,
this
yeah.
tonight. I
I
just
was
pulled it
Mm,
like, yeah,
up.
I
This
need
looks
to watch
amazing.
this.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it
If you're
literally is
interested,
just Kiss. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like they look very similar. But that movie is really bad. If you're gonna watch one that's got like awesome rock music and a wicked soundtrack, try Black Roses.
Black
That's the one that was
Roses.
filmed just outside of Toronto. Black Roses is amazing. The songs are so awesome. And it's about like, the devil and stuff. So it's cool.
The guy like the when he turns into the devil though,
Yeah.
no,
It's awesome. It's so good. It's so good.
it's a bummer.
Okay,
Anyway,
yeah.
Okay.
I'm
We
putting
have
it
to
on
watch
tonight.
both of these now, yeah, and report back.
Yes,
Yeah,
please. I cannot wait.
absolutely.
I love
Oh
it.
my God. Yeah, just kind of wrapping up here, just kind of looking
Mhm.
ahead. What can fans expect from Kitty for the rest of 2025 and beyond? Obviously some more shows I can imagine, tours, is new music being worked on? What can you sort of share?
Well, we just have a couple of festivals in the US to close out the year, and Spit 25, Spit XXV is out on the 19th. And that's an EP with four of our favorites that we've recorded. from our debut album Spit. So that will be really cool. I'm really excited for people to hear and hear the responses of stuff with those. Into next year, we are going to be on the Shiprock cruise,
Hmm.
which will be fun. We've never done that before, so that'll be a neat little experience. And we are doing some show and festival and tour planning for 2026. We don't have anything that we can like share, but there are some things on the books that are coming up. So you'll be seeing us around. We'll still be here. And of course, yeah, looking towards solidifying our presence here in the music world. We put Fire out last year, and I think um, it would be a good time to start working on the follow-up.
Absolutely.
Oh
Very
yeah.
exciting. Well, thank you so much, y'all. Really appreciate it. This has been awesome. It's
Thank
been so
you.
cool to kind of go back down memory lane and
Mm.
discuss this. Truly one of the best albums of that era,
Oh,
for sure.
thank you so much.
100%.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Of course. Well, thank you so much, y'all. Let y'all enjoy the rest of your night. But just, yeah, this was awesome.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, we had a
Thanks,
blast.
guys.
We'll talk to you
Thanks,
soon.
Garth.
Absolutely. Okay.
See you
See ya.
soon.